We are live, ladies and gentlemen, again. I hope we are live. I hope the sound is being corrected. I am going to share. I am going to see what is live, what is popping. Since I'm in the studio suite, I need to make sure it is actually live on YouTube before we get started. So let's see. Heist Century continues. So if you'll bear with me, I can see now that my sound seems to have come back. Now I will be sending off all the notifications. So while we wait for the notifications, I would just ask that you to one, bear with me. Sound is back. Notifications have gone out. So we are going to get it started in a few moments. If you're joining me on YouTube, then hopefully you can you can hear and hopefully you see the pinned comment on YouTube. I would like for you to okay, well, the pinned comment is not showing, so I'm not even gonna worry about that anymore. If you are joining me on YouTube, uh I thank you for showing up. If you'll bear with me now as I hit my extra live buttons, trying to get this thing popping again on Facebook and Instagram. So, and since we are going officially live, I feel it's only right for me to play the intro theme song again and start over from where we were starting. So I'm hitting the live button on Instagram. We are now live on Instagram. How y'all doing? We are live on YouTube and trying to get live on Facebook. So, how y'all doing out there tonight? I'm gonna give it a couple of seconds, a few more seconds, because Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of that, they have their own notification systems that they send out. I see Brother Marcus 7062 has returned to the Instagram chat. I do appreciate your presence. I do believe that's loud and clear now. I'm gonna get started with the theme song.
Mumbling, trick, knowledge, deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. The proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick, knowledge, deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick, knowledge, deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Break.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It at least is now an official start to the broadcast. Shout out to Woken Dope on Instagram and Marcus7062 on Instagram. Anybody else, if you're joining along, I will try to make sure I keep an eye on my chat room so I can shout you out. And I will send a link so that you can join in if you so desire. Let's see what we talk about here tonight. Couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight. One of the things I wanted to go over, because it's Black History Month here in these contiguous, or no, not the contiguous, in all 50 United States, this disorganized, disunited snakes of America, I will take a few moments to give a shout out to one of our elders, one of our ancestors, I should say. What I am doing at least for this month, I may do it beyond Black History Month, is before I get started, I want to give a shout out to either an elder who is living amongst us or an ancestor who has walked amongst us and has done something significant for our people. So tonight, I'm giving a shout out to Queen Mother Moore. Now, some of you may not know who Queen Mother Moore is. And if that's the case, I'm glad I'm here to provide this information for you. So, without further ado, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share the screen and just give you a sneak peek, just a little vision, a little sampling, I should say, of who she is. Let's see, let's see. So, where is the share screen button? There we go. And turn that volume up. And it is not acting like it. There we go. Share screen. So now you can see Queen Mother Moore. I'm gonna play this clip. Let's see, Queen Mother Moore. But before I hit the play button, I just want to give a brief breakdown, give you a little bit of information. Oddly, Queen Mother Moore, born July 27th, 1898, and transcended May 2nd, 1997, was an American human rights leader and Black nationalist who was friends with such leaders as the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Rosa Parks. She even hung out with Jesse Jackson. She was a figure in the American civil rights movement and the founder of the Republic of New Africa. Now, that's my favorite organization to try to talk about. They didn't necessarily last that long, but they did have a serious impact on the struggle, the cause, what Black people are fighting for. Let's see, Queen Mother Moore. Let's see, her. She was one of her assistants. One of her assistants was named Lois Blakely. She was Queen Mother Moore's assistant for 20 years. She went on and was installed in Ghana as another as Queen Mother also. So both of those vibrant Black women, mothers of the cause, mothers of the movement, um, had all types of things that they worked on. They were working on the reparations movement in addition to the American civil rights movement. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that ancestor. And I'm going to play this little clip and then we'll get into the rest of the show.
You've got to be able to comprehend what you're thinking. You've got to be able to understand and think for yourself and stop thinking in the pattern that the other people want you to think all the time.
You think this begins with taking upon yourself an African name?
Oh, yes.
And that has great significance and, I guess, influence over the mind.
Yes.
I know it has for me.
Yes.
So you suggest that the young Black people take upon themselves an African name to get to know who they are.
That's right. I didn't have to change my name because the Moors was a great nation of Africans. You see, I didn't have to do that.
So you were born with an African name.
I was born a Moor. Yeah.
Very good. We have here Queen Mother Moore, and this is the Flo Kennedy Show. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Another.
Okay. Well, let me stop sharing. That is not the whole clip that I was trying to play. But again, with technology, you make a plan and God laughs. So rather than be continuing to belabor the moment and delay the moment, at least I got part of that clip out working the way so you can hear it. Queen Mother Moore, who says that she believes that you should, as a part of reclaiming your identity or recognizing your identity, she says you should get yourself an African name. Now, that may not necessarily be what everybody wants to do, but that's definitely something that I believe in. So I appreciate at least that one little nugget of wisdom from Queen Mother Moore. Like I said, she is a reparations activist. She was a Pan-Africanist. She worked with Marcus Garvey. She worked with other people in the civil rights movement as well. So, like I said, as part of Black History, I wanted to at least shout out one ancestor every time I go live. So I've done that part. Now I'm gonna move on to the topic at hand, the major topic at hand. What I wanted to, I want to assume, but I know that's not safe. I want to assume everyone has heard the news. I want to assume everyone has been watching the news and analyzing the news, and you've seen all of this stuff about Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, which really should be called Devilish Oligarchs Governmental Enslavement Program. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that for a little bit. I'm hoping that we could get some conversation going. At least now, again, and I'll be honest with you, on Instagram, I'm not even too sure how I can really jump into the engagement, so to speak. So if you are watching on Instagram, it would behoove you to come over to youtube.com, but I already know we are all creatures of habit, and people who love Instagram don't necessarily love YouTube, and so on and so forth. But so, like I said, what I want to talk about was Doge. I want to talk about President Musk and President and Vice President Trump and stooge number three, J.D. Vance. Um, the Musk takeover, the billionaire takeover. So rather than belabor the point, I don't want to bore you with the details. You already know the details. Uh, what is it? What's his name? Musk has taken over the Department of Treasury. Musk has taken over the Department of what is this? U.S. aid. Musk has taken over the Central Finance Protective Agency. He's taken over everything. So I just wanted to give a commentary, I guess. Like some people are saying, well, we don't know what's going on. And I'm like, well, how do you not know? It's clearly a systematic takeover disguised as governance. As we witness the rhetoric being thrown out there about being more governmentally efficient. This person who has not been elected is taking over. It's taking over government agencies, and he's doing it on the sly, and he's doing it with his goons. Like we all saw the January 6th riots, and I guess to some extent, they learned that if they do the extreme hostile behaviors, they would get all kind of feedback that would prevent them, because nobody likes when the rule of law has been disabled. So they decided this time we're gonna come in like ninjas. We're just gonna walk in smooth as a pimp, and we're gonna take over. So they done walked into these government agencies and kicked people out. If that ain't gangster, if that ain't goon style, that's Hitler blitzkrieg type stuff. So we are sitting around and we witnessed this, or rather, let me before I go there. So then you have the CNN, the MSNBC, Fox News, and all these other news agencies. And when they talk about it, they they're giving the soft hand touch to it, and they ask soft questions. Well, when are you going to tell us more? Well, there's not much more to tell. Once somebody is taking over these types of agencies, it's all a question as to when they're going to push the panic button. Like these people have taken over the Department of Treasury. They now control. I mean, it's not that the government wasn't in control, but now you got somebody that's in control that wasn't hired to be in that office, that wasn't elected to be in that office. And he's installed his own computers. He's installed his own servers. The Republicans made a whole big whip-de-do over Hillary Clinton and her scandalous self because she had one computer, one server that was private to her and nobody else had any access to it. And it was only in access to whatever it was that she had privy to. They've taken over entire agencies. She only had access to one agency that she was sitting in. They're taking 3 agencies, 4 agencies, 5 agencies, and saying very little about it. So that's what I wanted. My thing here is, let's see, making sure you can see my comments. Okay, let me pause again because I do appreciate anybody in the comment section. So give a shout out to Shade Magazine. Let me give a shout out to Shade Magazine, making sure you can see my comments. I can see them. I put them on the screen. I'm glad that you're here, and that definitely means that the sound is back. So I'm gonna also give a shout out to Kiwi Branch on Instagram. So as we witness this rhetoric, it's really more about colonizing. That's what they're doing. And so when people ask them questions, and when they start to talk, like you heard what Trump wanted to do with Gaza. He's going to turn it into a hotel resort. He's going, I don't know what his plan is for Greenland. He said, we taking over Greenland. Well, whether you know it or not, you probably know it already, but Greenland is filled with minerals. And this country loves natural resources. One of the reasons they love them so much is because this country ain't got none. So they love going around the whole earth. And anytime they can find somebody, some strip of land that's got some natural resources, some minerals, ooh, what kind of problems can we create for y'all? They're going to go on down to Panama. So we witnessed this rhetoric about colonizing foreign lands and territories. Gaza, Greenland, Panama. Those in power use spectacle. This is the thing. They're using spectacle to divert people's attention from their real power grabs. And that's why I said, like, it's blitzkrieg. When Hitler came into power, he used one of his strategies was to use blitzkrieg. What's blitzkrieg? It's very similar to what Bush used. Shock and awe. It's when you throw everything at your opponent. Like, think about, like, when you watch those martial arts movies. You see a martial arts movie and 15 bad guys surround the one hero, but they all take turns going up against the one hero. And yeah, true enough, he's the martial artist, so he one by one, single-handedly, he takes care of all the bad guys. But he's doing this because each opponent attacks one at a time. They've decided we ain't doing that. We're not striking once at a time. We're hitting everything from the ground from day one. They like, okay, here go 115 different things. You don't know what's coming at you. This is spectacle. This is blitzkrieg. This is shock and awe. So those in power are using spectacle to divert attention from the real power grabs happening within the borders. They want you to look at Greenland. They want you to look at Gaza. They want you to look at Panama. Oh my, what's he going to do over there? How is all those foreign countries how is that going to impact us? While they sneak into the Department of Treasury and kick out the people that's supposed to be making sure you get your Social Security check, making sure you get your Medicaid and Medicare checks. And yeah, I know they said we not going to touch those. Just like he said, he ain't got nothing to do with Project 2025. But as soon as he get in office, at least half of his first, 100 something, 150 executive orders, they all stem from Project 2025. What a coincidence. So it's more than just a distraction. It's an aggressive restructuring of the systems that in one way have historically helped many Black and brown communities when managed correctly, and when managed incorrectly, improperly, or poorly, have helped to historically marginalize Black and brown communities. Now, I don't care if you are a card-carrying Democrat or a card-carrying Republican. These gangsters in office now are not great managers, especially when they don't have anything in it for them. Now, Musk may be a great manager when it comes to things that impact his own bottom line. And even that, if you're paying attention to Musk, there's already people who put out little either full documentaries or mini documentaries talking about how he can't focus on but so many things. So when he steps away from Tesla, everything at Tesla starts to go down. And then he comes back to refocus. But then when he focuses on X, everything at Tesla goes down because he's focused on X. And then he goes to Tesla to fix that, then X goes down. Then he goes to X to fix that, and his little space projects start to get messed up. He go over there. He can't manage but so much. So while this new modern day age Hitler doing all of his little Hitler signs is trying to shock and awe everybody, he's quietly sneaking in and taking over. At this point, even if they do get him out of the Department of Treasury, which I don't really see them being able to do, But even if they manage to get him out, the damage is done. He's already installed the computers and servers. He's already downloaded everything he needs. He can remote access in from anywhere he wants to. So behind the scenes, this regime isn't just attacking democracy. That's what, mainstream media wants you to focus on, his attacks on democracy. And I'm not saying he isn't attacking democracy. I'm saying that's all they care about. They care about the rule of law as it applies to them. But when democracy itself is in trouble, that means we're in danger. Black and brown communities are in danger when mainstream society is in trouble. Agencies like USAID, which have served as lifelines for people both at home and abroad, are now being controlled, manipulated, gutted under the guise of efficiency or draining the swamp. Now, you might say, well, what that got to do with us? I ain't never even heard of USAID. Okay, look. So what if you ain't never heard of it? Do you really like, are you going to tell me that you're an expert in government agencies, so you've heard of everything, and because you've heard of everything, USAID must not be that important? I hope that's not what you're saying. Shout out to Shade Magazine. He is the father of lies. That's so true. Like, actually, it's like twin fathers of lies, because Musk and Trump are like, it's like they're in a competition. Which one of us is going to win the medal of lies, of falsehood? Who's going to be the king of falsehood? So like I said earlier, I said, they call it the Department of Government Efficiency. We can mess around and call it the destructive oppression governmentally established. Destructive oppression governmentally established. That's what Doge is really going for. They're not really concerned with reform. They're not really concerned with efficiency. They're only concerned with control. They're only concerned with power. Whatever they do, that's the end game. Another word for it, if they start pushing the panic buttons the way I think they're going to, and I ain't no prophet, so I don't know, I could be easily dead wrong, but I think they're going to push the panic buttons towards erasure. And I would say erasure is just another fancy little pretty soft word for genocide. It's a polite word for genocide. What is genocide, and how could I possibly say that about this country? It's 2025. Genocide is the slow, deliberate removal of resources, infrastructure, and humanity from a people until they no longer exist. Genocide is what's going on in Gaza. But a lot of times we think that genocide is only one. We think it's only applied or applicable if there is military action. Genocide does not have to be accompanied with military action. Yes, many genocides have occurred under military action, under gore, under blood, under death, under atrocities. But that's just one type, one style, one approach to genocide. If at the end of the day, if the goal is extermination, it doesn't matter how they get there, especially in a day and age where they already know they can't save face if they do certain things in certain ways. That's another reason Trump wants to talk about hotel resorts. He wants to shift the conversation away from who's got a right to live there and who doesn't have a right to live there. He wants to shift the conversation away from who has the power and ability to stomp out someone and just have everybody talk about vacations. If we can get the masses interested in vacations, just like when Bush said, when everybody was afraid the world was going to come to an end, and Bush said, "We got this, everybody. Just go shopping." And what did a lot of people do? They went shopping. They said, "Oh, it's not a real war. It's not a war. It's just a skirmish. So we can go shopping." That's what Trump's trying to do. Get everybody to start talking about vacations. Just look at the beautiful landscapes that we could have over here. And he will trick some people into talking about that. He will fool some people into talking about that. And if that doesn't work, hey, he's got 16 other distractions for you. Sooner or later, there is a segment of the population who will sooner or later just say, "This is too much. I can't follow all this. I'm going to bed. I got to go to work tomorrow." As long as you got a job, don't be one of those brothers and sisters that work for the government. My heart goes out. If you work for the federal government now, you got to be like, this is a nail biter. This is a real page turner. So since I'm talking about the government, let me say this about USA. It was once a beacon for humanitarian aid. So it's, again, maybe I'm wrong. If it meets its doom, like they say they're saying they're going to shut it down, and they're going to celebrate it as an act of taking control, of getting government to work more efficiently, shrinking the size of government. This is what they've been pushing. Now, I think it's very interesting that they know these numbers. The general public doesn't necessarily know these numbers, but they know these numbers. When you start talking about shrinking the size of government, that sounds good. That sounds noble even. But hell, states' rights sounds good. When you say we're gonna take all of this away from the federal government and put it back into states' rights. States' rights sounds good. Yes, let the power of the people speak. But when you know certain things, states' rights rings a bell. The Ku Klux Klan believed in states' rights. The Ku Klux Klan wanted the federal government to back away, and they wanted each state to have the sole power and authority to make decisions in their state. And they ran their state. And the biggest decision they wanted to control was the chains on our hands and our legs. States' rights is an argument that was birthed by the Confederacy so as to cover up the fact that they simply wanted to continue the dehumanization, chattelization, and enslavement of African people. Let me see for a second. Shade Magazine. Let me see. I'm gonna put that on the screen. He's trying to create beautiful distractions on stage while creating chaos behind the curtains. Exactly. And it always sounds pretty until you see it. Precisely. Again, their number one game is distraction. If I can get you to look to the left, I'm gonna sneak in on the right. If I get you to look to the right, I'm gonna sneak in on the left. If I holler, there's a plane falling, and you look up, I got everybody coming up underneath. Distraction is the name of the game for this administration. But again, I go back to this idea that taking away these government agencies, reducing the size of government, this is really a deceptive attack on Black people, on brown people, on marginalized communities. Now, why do I say that? I say that because almost 20% of the federal government, almost 20% of workers in the federal government, from low bottom ranks on up the chain, are Black and brown. So Black people, the middle class itself, 20%, I'll say it this way, maybe this, I may have said that incorrectly. 20% of the Black middle class works in federal government. So when they say we want to reduce the size of government, Who you think they want to reduce? Last fired, first hired. You ever heard of that? You ever heard last fired, first hired? We know who that is. We know who that applies to. And that's what they're about to do. That's what they are about to do. They're about to reduce the size of government. They're going to walk through all of those files and see what black people can we get rid of? What brown people can we get rid of? Just like, what's that guy named Pete Hegseth, who, as soon as that Fox News anchor got in control of a government agency, he said, rule number one, we ain't recognizing anybody's ethnicity, culture, or contribution to nothing. That's it for the rest of the year, as long as I'm here. No black history, no woman's history, no Native American history, no Pacific Islander. I don't care. If you ain't a white man, it don't matter. He's going to reduce the size of the recognitions and contributions. That's what they up to. That's what they up to. They just disguising it because they know that most people, especially nowadays, most people appreciate an open-faced enemy. How many times have we even had this conversation? I know that this popped up a lot during the during the election. People were saying, "I'm thinking about voting Republican because I like my enemies plain in sight." Republicans laughed all the way to the bank with that. Oh, do you? Oh, do you, Mr. Simpleton? You like for me to tell you exactly what I'm going to do to you. Watch these lies. Watch these lies. They have no duty, right, responsibility to tell you how they're going to sucker punch you. But you want to stand up and say, I want my enemy to tell me point blank. Well, you can keep wanting it. Keep taking a knife to a gunfight and see what happens. Keep stepping into the arena without boxing gloves and see what happens. Just because you respect someone who's going to be your open face, open palm, plain, honest enemy, okay, you can ask for that. And when you get sucker punched, you know why. And that's what they're doing now. They sucker punching everybody. They sucker punching all of those people that said, I'd rather deal with my open enemy. Because your open enemy is playing in your face right now. At USAID, employees were dismissed en masse. These are professionals who, these are professionals whose work impacts millions of lives, including efforts in Africa, the Caribbean, Africa, the Caribbean, the Gaza Strip, so on and so forth. Marginalized parts of the United States even catch an impact. So their dismissal signals a message. Systems built for equity can and will be destroyed, so long as the wealthy profit. The last message on the USAID website was, thank you for your service. A bitter goodbye to decades of progress. Let me see. Shade Magazine says, to be honest, I felt that excuse to vote for him. I felt that excuse to vote for him was some Uncle Tom mess. Man, we got so much of a nation of Uncle Toms. Like, I mean, we got a nation of Uncle Toms. And even if I didn't want to call him Uncle Tom, I actually got a couple of issues with the Uncle Tom phrase, but I'm going to run with that for now. If it's not Uncle Tom, which, I mean, yeah, it is, but this insistence of ours, or some of us, like I said, when you insist that your enemy approaches you with honesty, okay, Uncle Tom, immature, you certainly ain't sober. You certainly ain't right thinking. You're not even being logical. Because Gone are the days of a fair one. Fair ones don't exist. That's not the society we live in today. So again, for you to simply say, I need my enemy to tell me he hates me. Okay. You need to grow up. That's all that is. If he's really your enemy, why would he simply tell you? Why does he want you prepared for him? Now, I'll give you another example. I think I talked about this the other day. I'll give you another example. Now, and this is not the example I'm going to use is not to promote biblical ideologies, the biblical narrative, or anything like that. I'm not trying to big up any Abrahamic religion in particular, but I'm not trying to big up any of that stuff. But the biblical narrative, the story in the Bible, in the garden, Adam and Eve, the apple, the snake. Now, the snake didn't come up to Eve and say, listen here, you're going to do what the F I say? No, he didn't come up to Eve and say, I'm your enemy, don't believe me, don't trust me, I got it out for you. No, the story itself, the way it's written, the snake comes up smooth and slick and starts asking questions, not even giving direct statements. So that's what you think? You think that's harmful? He ain't trying to play his hand. He ain't trying to reveal his hand. He's trying to push you into something. That's how your enemy behaves. Your enemy don't come at you and just say, like, okay, yeah, if you on the street, if you in the street game, street culture, if you out there hustling and grinding, you doing that stuff, those enemies might tell you, I'm coming to get you at 9:00. But this ain't that kind of enemy. This is a sophisticated enemy. He first off, he know if he tell you point blank, he know you gonna get prepared. He know if he tell you, I'm gonna put them niggas back on the plantation, he know you gonna vote Democrat. Nah, what he do? I'm gonna give y'all some jobs. I'm gonna protect y'all black jobs. What you got to lose? Shout out to Doc Dreezy in the chat room. He says, I'm putting it up on the screen. Our folks get food so easily. Man, sometimes I tell you, I'm just like, I just got to sit down and shake my head. I'm like, I saw this a lot, even as a teacher in the classroom. I saw just like the way people think, and it's like people really gravitate towards these just foolish impressions. Like I said, requesting, thinking that you're requiring your enemy to be honest, this is foolish. I like what Shea Magazine says. Shea Magazine says kissing his I'm trying not to curse. I think I was told that that hurts the algorithm. But kissing his doesn't mean anything. You will just be a house in. Exactly. And for all of those people that said, we don't want to vote for the Democrats because they're slick, and we think, we can appreciate an honest enemy, and we don't vote because he got the platinum plan. First off, where is the platinum plan now? He issued 150 some odd executive orders. Not one of them was the platinum plan. Where were all of those people that said we should vote for him for the platinum plan? And where is the platinum plan? This is that slick talk from the serpent. Yeah, you do got some people that believe in reptilians walking the planet with fake skin as a mask. I ain't one of those, but if you had to make an argument about that, Musk, Trump, and Vance, they quite reptilian if you think about it. But again, like I said, this thing with USA, You know, and because clearly it didn't even stop with USAID. You know, another takeover, I already mentioned that, the Department of Treasury. The same tech billionaires behind the dismantling of USAID also targeted the financial backbone of this country. They gained access to the Treasury's payment systems, which process nearly every federal transaction from Social Security checks to veterans benefits to food assistance programs. So, again, like, you know, if they were concerned with efficiency, then if you're going to shut down US aid, and I'm not saying that they should have, they shouldn't have, but if they were going to shut down US aid for efficiency, then what they should have done was take all that money and put it into Veterans Affairs and put it into Medicaid and put it into Medicare and Social Security. No, they shut it down. They're going to take all that money. Where do you think it's going? It's going in their pockets. That's where it's going. That's all it's doing. They taking every dollar they can from the federal government's coffers, and it's going into Musk, Trump, and Vance. Shade Magazine says Slick is being a felon and then being able to run the free nation. Who you telling? And on top of that, he already has his mega Republicans. They've already written a new bill. You heard about the new bill, right? The new bill, the new legislation they've written up. And it's really not a question as to whether, if it doesn't pass, I will be shocked and blown away. Why? Because they run everything. But they've written up new legislation that says Trump can run a third time. That's one of their new legislative pieces. And they wrote it up in a way so that it applies to Trump. It doesn't apply to nearly anybody else. It doesn't apply to America's favorite black president. It doesn't apply to Obama. They wrote it so that if you've already been in office back to back, where is Drake at? Back to back, you can't run again. You can only run a third time if your second term came after a one-term absence. So you were in office, you lost, then you came back after that loss and you won. It's not back to back. They're not concurrent. So yes, you can run again, because then if you run after that one and win, that's your back to back. And that's the way they wrote the legislation. Shout out to Doc Dreezy. He says that is a fact. That felon mess could only be pulled off by them good old boys. That was like veggie backing onto what Shade Magazine was saying. Exactly. You know, there's no way. Man, come on. There's no way. There hasn't only been but one black president. You think a black person would be elected a president if he had a felonies? Come on. But if you know anything about, like, let's see, Rastafarians were very big on saying Babylon is falling. Elijah Muhammad was very big on saying Babylon is falling. And so if you're in those kind of circles and you say, or you believe, you know, Babylon is falling, these are the last days, not the last days of the entire world being in existence. It's not the last days like the earth's going to blow up and explode. No, last days as in the civilization, the society that you know of may go away. Well, technically, yeah, they shutting down. If they shut down the government, then the world that you know of is gonna go away. We're gonna be back on some Mad Max type stuff at best. At worst, we may find ourselves back on the plantation. That kind of world, this modern day world is falling. So they've gained access to the Treasury's payment systems. This takeover directly threatens black middle class, as government employment has historically been a pillar of economic security for black families. Approximately 20% of black workers are employed in the public sector. approximately 20% of black workers are employed in the public sector. So again, when they say we want to reduce the size of government, who you think they talking about? Black individuals are 30% more likely than non-black individuals to hold government jobs. Public sector work has been instrumental in building the black middle class, which offers stable incomes, benefits, and pathways to advancement. So the same way they knew, what did they always say? They always said real estate. They always said owning a home is the pathway to the American dream. And then they started fiddling with the rules because they looked up and saw, oh, the black people is making some money now. You know, there was a time when there was no credit score required. If you had the cash for a down payment, you could buy a house. At that time, we didn't have the cash for a down payment. But then as things moved on and we started getting bigger and better jobs and we started learning how to save more money because we had bigger and better jobs, now we got the money for the down payment. What's your credit score? Excuse me? Same thing happened with the voting. When we couldn't vote, all you had to do was show up at the poll and cast a ballot. Soon as they said we could vote, where's your ID? They hadn't issued IDs. I don't have no ID. Ain't no such thing as an ID. If you don't have an ID, you can't vote. I got an ID now. Well, you got to take this test. What test? There was never a test until we got the right to vote. So every time we get somewhere on that path of progress, they look up and be like, and I did talk about this in another 2 steps ahead, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So let me see, where was I? Okay. So now these systems are under siege. Billionaires like Musk and their allies, and I mean allies. It's not just Musk. If you look back at that inauguration, very interesting, the inauguration where the so-called president didn't even put his hand on the so-called book. Again, I'm not promoting any religion, but the history of this country has always said that when you get inaugurated, you put your hand on the Bible. And that gangster stood there with his hands to his side like he ain't want to touch nothing. So I'm like, I'm not, it's not like I'm a scholar. I'm not a constitutional scholar. But if the history says you're supposed to put your hand on that book, and he didn't put his hand on that book, how you sworn in? What are you swearing to? To whom are you swearing? But anyhow, the real point of that is it's not just Musk. It's all the billionaires. You love Facebook? Well, your owner, he's down with Trump. You love Twitter? He's down with Trump, obviously. It's all of them. The guys in charge of Target that we're supposed to be boycotting. I don't know if we're boycotting or not. One group says yes, another group says no, another group says boycott but still buy the black. Man, we ain't gonna never get it together. But these billionaires, the oligarchs, they claim to be rooting out corruption and waste when they are, in fact, the corruption and the waste. They say they're going to cut funding and rewrite the programs that, yeah, they're going to cut the funding. And they got 1 sentence for revisions. You're done. Like Trump said, you're fired. So these are the programs that sustain millions of black working class families. So we know what this means. It's the same old narrative. Our survival is deemed wasteful. Our existence is labeled as corruption. They're going to get rid of as much as they can. It's almost like this is a test. Every day they're like, well, how much further can we push this envelope? This administration is dismantling agencies and seizing control of others at will with no resistance. even the people that want to fight, like, don't necessarily even have anything to fight with. Like, if you say, okay, well, because I heard somebody else say, well, the Democrats need to just stop them. How you gonna stop them? Let's put it to a vote. Ain't got enough votes for that. You don't have the votes. They just tried to subpoena Musk. It's like, okay, we have the authority to subpoena people. So we're going to subpoena people and make them come to Congress and explain themselves, put them on the grill. And if we don't like the answers, something else is going to happen. They put it to a vote. All of the Republicans said, nope. Mm-mm. So what fight do you have? Provided you want to stay legal, you want to stay legitimate, you want to stay within the confines of the rule of law, you don't have a fight. This is going to be like it's going to be a rough 4 years. This is only the second month of the year of the administration. It's not a full month, but still. Like, you have the only real shot is in 2026. You vote in the congressional and or the senatorial runs, and you replace some of these Republicans. That's all you got. But everything that comes to a vote, the Republicans, in lock, stock, and barrel, in mass, they say, nope, whatever it is. So this test case, this administration is dismantling agencies, seizing control of others at will. What's going to stop them from targeting every program that sustains our communities? All they got to do is say, we think there's too much waste in public education. They already said they want to shut it down. What happens when they come for federal housing programs? What happens if they privatize public education? What happens if they strip away health care from those who are already dying at disproportionate rates? If you run by the narrative, if you run by the COVID narrative, for instance, at one point, like, of course, everybody was like, well, yeah, it's real, it's fake. It don't even affect Black people. And then Black institutions and agencies started stepping up saying, wait a minute, hold on. We've been looking at the numbers. It does affect us. It's a lot more of us dying than them. They didn't even want that to come out. So anything that affects us, they have a way of trying to sneak it in under the radar so they can affect that change without the bells being whistled off. And again, yes, indeed, Shade Magazine. Notice that talk about reparations just disappeared. And I will say, honestly, from both sides, but at the same time, it disappeared a long time ago from the Democrat side. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I can't stand the Democrats, to be perfectly honest with you. I really can't stand them. And if it wasn't for like a couple of, I don't want to say celebrities, but a couple of people who stand out in the media, who make their presence known, I would not have anything positive to say about Democrats. But they kind of walked away from the reparations argument a long time ago. And it was all these talking heads and YouTubers and cultists. Yeah, I call them cultists. They're cult leaders. And they were saying that our best shot at reparations is to vote Republican, is to ride with the mega nuts. That's what they said. Of course, they didn't call them nuts. I'm calling them nuts. But they were the ones that were saying, vote Republican, vote Trump, because he's got the platinum plan. Trump gets into office. Not only does Trump shut up about the platinum plan, all those Black people, and that would be a reason we would call them people out their name, Uncle Tom or Sambo, what have you. That would be a reason we would call them to the carpet. Where y'all at? It's one thing for Trump to shut up about the platinum plan, to shut up about reparations. But all of these black people that were saying we can get it through Trump, where y'all at? Y'all, mum's the word from y'all. Y'all don't want to talk about nothing. Or y'all want to talk about some other BS. Now y'all want to get on y'all lives, get on y'all Instagrams and YouTubes and whatnot, and y'all want to talk about movies and y'all want to talk about immigrants that ain't got nothing to do with reparations. Smoke and mirrors, distractions. The fear of blacks being able to rise, that is indeed. That's what drives white hatred. That's what drives white supremacy. Sometimes it's not even about their direct dislike for us, but it's about their fear that we will rise. They cannot stomach the idea of us rising. When we were during the Reconstruction period, we had more gains during the Reconstruction period than during any other period, even up to today. And the reason the Reconstruction period ended is for that very reason. When they looked up and saw them Negroes is making gains, they don't even have an education. But we figured out a way to pool our resources and to buy amongst ourselves. We were producing middle class families. We were producing incomes that took us further than the white man in similar backgrounds, in a similar background. And so they looked up and saw, wait a minute, we had these farms, we had these plantations. We ain't buying no cars. How are these black people buying cars? This got to stop. Reconstruction ended in a heartbeat. Reconstruction ended right off that. As soon as they saw that we were making gains and a lot of those gains were surpassing them, nope, this was not part of the plan. And so that's what they're doing now with this government shutdown mess, because they fear us rising. They too busy making drinks for Massa Trump. Oh, I know who said, yeah. The Nashidites, the Yvette Carnellians, the ADOS people, the Pretendians, nothing but distraction. I swear there's some CIA, some CIA COINTELPRO stuff. So we've seen all this kind of pushback before, and we've survived it. So in that regard, it's like, okay, hit me with your best shot. You're gonna do what you do anyhow. But that don't mean we should sit down, and that don't mean we should just take it. That don't mean we shouldn't complain about it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be fighting it. We should be organizing. These so-called reforms that they're talking about are nothing new. They're polished versions of the same tactics used to strip black wealth and resources. It's systemic violence hiding behind spreadsheets and polite language. And because it's systemic violence, it meets the criteria of genocide. And because it meets the criteria of genocide, if we was really about that life, if we was really about that freedom and liberation, we would be grabbing the baton where Malcolm X left it, which was over there in the United Nations, because he was working on the case that was going to bring Uncle Sam into the United Nations World Court and level the charge of genocide. And he did a whole African and Middle East tour, working with heads of state. And he had it all but in the bag. They actually said, we are going to vote against Uncle Sam when that court case comes. Let me see. Shout out to Adija Johnson. Shout out to Adija Johnson in the chat room. Adija says, them losers can't win anything black based like hate crime bills, fair housing, or reparations. So FBA just jumps on white supremacist resentments, being that's what Trump feeds into. Exactly. For the most part, like FBA, ADOS, both of them, almost everything that come out their mouth is a regurgitation of what some white supremacist has said. You know, they can't stand immigrants. Like, this was a talking point of white racists, white nationalists, Ku Klux Klan people for years. And now you got black people saying, yeah, those black people taking up, those other black people gonna come over here and take our jobs. Okay, I'm gonna tell you like this. They've already done the reports just so far since Trump's been in office. So, like, for instance, out in California, one of the reports out in California, the migrants, those immigrants who took all those black and white jobs, are now afraid to come to work. They are scared to come to work. Now, that's bad for them. But okay, so if all those migrants are scared to come to work, where's FBA? I want to see FBA in California run to those farms and grab those jobs, since they said all those migrants was taking our jobs. Then get your ass on over there and pick them tomatoes, because in another couple of weeks ain't gonna be no tomatoes in the daggone grocery store. Let me give a shout out to Dr. Dennis Assar Winkler in the chat room. Shout out, thank you for joining and attending. So again, yeah, the FBA people are full of hate, full of self-denial, and they are simply regurgitating white racist talking points. So I say it's up to us to call out all of this nonsense. And we call it for what it is. Trump and the oligarchs is state-sanctioned looting, calculated genocide of systems meant to uplift the people. If we don't resist the systemic erasure, and erasure is just a polite word for genocide, this is the paper genocide you better wake up and smell a coffee about. They will expand their attacks until nothing remains of what was built for us by us. So I ask you, who got next? Or who's coming next? What do you think they're going to do about all of these farms where all the migrants ain't coming to work? What do you think they're going to do about all of these construction jobs where the illegal immigrants aren't coming to work? So these companies, what are they going to go out of business? Or FBA is going to run over there and start putting in applications? Or if they determine that there are some jobs that must be filled regardless, who you think would be up for mandatory activities? You think they're going to mandate some white people to go work on that farm? Or you think they're going to look around and say, well, where them black folk at? Can we make them do it? Now, you might want to say, nah, they could never do that. People said they could never take over a government agency and shut it down without the proper rule of law. People said a felon could never be in the White House. We don't live in a world where that could never happen could ever really be said again. That world is gone. And what I suggest to you is you better get ready. They say if you get ready, they say if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So again, who you think is going to work those farms? If the migrants ain't coming, the farmers need workers. Now, okay, even if you say, Yeah, but we're free people and they came. Okay, look, I'll give you this. I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard about, if you haven't actually watched that documentary 13. That documentary 13. Yeah, Shade Magazine says it. Getting right at where I'm going. They will start with giving options in court. You can work on the farm or you can go to jail. And what is that? That's the chain gangs. That's the chain gangs all over again. They have a plan. If you think they don't have a plan, you just being silly. You're being naive. You sticking your head in the sand. You got a whole lot of faith. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to drag nobody's religion, but I ain't got that kind of faith. If faith worked that way, we never would have been put in chains in the first place. But if you watch the documentary 13, or if you are at least just knowledgeable and you're aware of what that documentary was about, who would be first up to grabs? Just as Shade Magazine made reference to when you step inside that courtroom. But they already got a nation of us who don't even have to go to court right now. It's a nation of us already behind bars. They'll just walk them brothers and sisters on over to the daggone plantation. I mean, the farm. They will just walk them brothers and sisters on over to the plantation. I mean, the farm. And have them do it. They already getting paid 12 cents an hour. And then what you gonna do? Nothing. Most of us ain't gonna do nothing because that don't affect me. Well, what can I do? He shouldn't have broke the law. Regardless of the fact that most of the people that get exonerated out of jail are black and they get fully exonerated, like, oops, we never should have put our hands on you. So you can't say, well, they never should have broke the law. A lot of them didn't. So again, I'm not saying I got the answers. I'm just saying I'm trying to ring the alarm. I'm just trying to wake up the consciousness. I'm just trying to let people know. Something fishy going on. This has more to do with us than it has to do with just government efficiency. That's a smokescreen. That's a shock and awe, blitzkrieg smokescreen to have you thinking one thing while they sneaking up behind you. They're 12 years a slave. That's how they got that brother. Had him thinking one thing, and then they jumped him with a sheet or a sack. So yeah, anybody getting ready to go to court, let's make him an offer he can't refuse. Then it will be indentured servitude, but the debt will never be paid off, just like they got now. Now, again, I'm not trying to necessarily promote any kind of religion, but at least in Islam, the Quran tells you don't go messing around with those debts. Usury is a sin. Being in debt is a sin. Don't do it. I'm not promoting religion. I'm just saying, in a very real way, debt is a sin. Or let me get away from the word sin. Debt is a trap. Debt is a trap. And that's what indentured servitude is. Because they'll take that indentured servitude and say, you got to work for 5 years. And then in year number 4, well, you see what happened was it's really 9. And there you go. So this is what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to be vigilant. We need to be careful. We need to pay attention. And we need to make sure, number one, in our own humble abodes, we need to make sure that we're ready. I'm not going to tell you what to do to get ready. I'm just going to say you need to get ready. Go do what you got to do. Go do what you got to do. Go get them. Get as many as you can and be ready. Now, that's kind of like all I got. Dominant oppressors grasping at everything. That's what Doge is really about. Let's see. So that's really all I got. If anybody wants to join, then I may stay on. I will, let me see. I will put the link in the chat, share screen when I find it. I tell you, every time you get around to doing new or using new, somehow I got a feeling this one ain't gonna anchor down. That's not gonna work. That's not the right one. Let me see this. Here we go. Now, invite. Need a new link. Guest can add. Let's see. Well, nope, guest cannot add. So here we go. If anybody wants to join in, I'm putting a link in the chat, but you don't have to. Don't feel no pressure. If not, I'm gonna get off here in a couple of minutes. I've done my due for the evening, at least for now. If you haven't heard, I don't want to be the first to tell you, but if you haven't heard, well, I guess we should have a rest in peace recognition for Irv Gotti. They say he passed yesterday, I believe. And it was he was 54 years old, and you know, if you are into hip hop, then you know his history, you know all that's about. You know, it's kind of sad. Well, not kind of sad. It's definitely sad. The brother was 54 years old. And if you a super young type person, that may you be like, well, that sound old to me. But once you hit your 30s, once you hit your 40s, then you like, wait a minute, wait a minute, 50 around the corner. You know, 50 is not that daggone old. You know, in my family, we got elders that's in their 80s, 90s, and I could be wrong, but I still think there's at least one elder on the family tree that's like 100 or just over 100. I'm not sure, but you know, when in this day and age, if you eat right and you so blessed, you can get up to 100 years old. So dying at 50 is literally half. You only got half your life. That's sad. So again, rest in peace to Irv Gotti, and thoughts and prayers to his family. Um, let's see. What else we got here? I think that was, yep, he died yesterday of a stroke, age 54. I tell you, that's some rough stuff. That's some rough stuff. I ain't gonna speak too much more on that because that's gonna. But so again, ladies and gentlemen, I have the, what is that? I have the, I don't honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I don't even know how the link works, but I do have the link in there if you wanted to join. If not, no worries, no beef, no problems. I'm gonna get ready to get out of here by hitting my, where is my theme song? Let me pause that for a second. Let me see if I can okay, share my screen. I thank you all for joining in, tuning in, sharing your thoughts and ideas. Let's see. I'm going to share this screen and see how it works. And then I'm going to get on up out of here.
With the proper perspective.
With the proper perspective.
So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Break.
Peace.